Hi, I'm Andrew.
I'm Justin.
I'm Christian.
And if you like chaos and restoration of vintage watches, then this episode is a must. There's far more chaos than information, but that kind of makes it fun.
Yeah.
I'm interrupting a live negotiation as Justin Hast and Christian Selmoni haggle over this piece here.
We're locking horns over the Cioccolatone on the table there.
You are.
One of
you
the most
literally
iconic.
jumped on this Cioccolatone.
Yes.
Can I try it on and tell me what you think?
Okay.
You're only going to tell me good things.
While you do that, I will complete my intro, which is this is the VC files where Justin, Christian, and I do unholy things to holy watches from the Vacheron Constantin archive, and we also trace them through to your contact with these types of watches, which in the case of these heritage pieces, they find their way through sometimes to the collectionneur assortment, which, Christian, I'd love you to explain to people.
Yeah.
Because what I see before me are vintage watches that look genuinely new, as in not restored. They look, to your seasoned eye, Justin, they look freaking new.
Yeah.
So let's start with the collectioner, shall we? Yeah, no, great. So the discussion that we have today is about restoration. I think it's a super interesting introduction. So what is Les Collectionneurs? So Les Collectionneurs is a Vacheron Constantin offer, or program, should I say, of vintage Vacheron Constantin. So we decided to start this program because, as we know, the vintage trend is something which is huge, since years. And obviously, I'm not going to mention that today we are celebrating our 271st anniversary. So obviously, we have a great legacy, great heritage, speaking about watches coming from the past. So Les Collectionneurs, we started that program in 2017. The idea was really, we found it was a fantastic way to talk about our heritage, our legacy, about design, about technicality, about restoration, and about how our design have this ability to transcend literally the time, Andrew. So this is how the idea came out. And so we have different categories of watches. Namely, we are talking about simple watches, both pocket watches and wristwatches. Middle complications. By middle complications, we're speaking about calendar watches and obviously chronographs. And high complications, we're speaking about chiming watches for the wristwatches, and chiming watches plus chronograph plus something for pocket watches. In terms of eras, so we target watches from the 20th century, from the 20s, until the, let's say, neo-vintage watches until the 90s, end of the 90s.
But correct me if I'm wrong, because I was taken back in 2016-17 when I saw these vintage watches in the boutique being offered. It was pretty big. Like, I actually might be wrong here, but Vacheron, I think, was one of the very first brands ever to offer a curated vintage section.
Well, we were the first, really. It was a pioneer program. And so it became really a success. It's still a success, and Justin, as a collector, so who are our clients for these watches? So they are not like avid collectors who are hunting on the secondary market, like guys like Justin, for example, not to mention his name. We are more, I would say, targeting Vacheron Constantin clients who are really willing to acquire a vintage Vacheron Constantin type of watches that they love. Through the manufacturer.
And look, let's call a spade a spade. It's not Justin. It's someone with much more money. And it's someone who wants
unfair. That's entirely unfair. I'm going to struggle to pay for my train home tomorrow, but that's a side note.
Someone who wants the security of a watch that has been... Because
curated.
Can I be deeply philosophical for a moment? Yeah. Time at Vacheron Constantin is not linear. It is a hairspring. It's a spiral. And you basically curate your own vintage market. Any watch from that period you described is not back here. It's in a spiral here. and it has its time again, and you lovingly take back these watches, and then you do things to them that basically, I mean, we have to bring this 1921 into the equation. This looks indistinguishable from a new watch. If you told me, Andrew, we've done a revival piece and this is the 2026 novelty,
That is it.
I would believe you.
No, that is it.
That
is
isn't it?
a fairly modern 1921.
What year is it from?
It's a long story, this one.
Okay.
Do we keep it for?
Yeah, let's do
Actually,
it.
that is
for a while.
legitimately a
But
modern
how
watch.
old though?
Like 5 years.
4 years.
4 years old.
Okay.
No, 5 years. Right, 5 years.
That may not make the cut. I have been stitched up.
That is brilliant. No, but it is literally. It is brilliant. He walked straight into it.
I walked into
It's
it and it
absolutely
hit me in the
fantastic.
face,
It's
and Justin
fantastic.
Hast was at the other end of the
I
fist.
need to keep that one in
Okay.
there to defend myself because
But,
I've been bullied.
This was said to me to be from the archive. How is that even different to the
no, but-
original?
So yeah.
I've been smacked.
Okay. So shall you continue with
Can I-
your
can I-
philosophical story?
Can
That
I
was
jump
really
in?
good.
Can I jump in to pick up from where you left off? If
No,
we
no,
cut
really, that was really
The
good.
whole
The
thing.
philosophical.
Well, the philosophy was good. Do you want to carry on with the philosophy?
Carry on.
No.
Give us the philosophy again, because then I'll cut you off because I'm in the middle of negotiation.
Are we actually going to cut that or? leave
No,
it?
no, no.
I really liked that interaction, to be fair. But
Because I think the fact that I think that that's an original, because they are the original proportions, right?
Yeah.
So
This is-
I mean,
this-
I don't even know who would know that wasn't an original. How different is that from the original?
Everything and nothing. In the sense that this is a reconstruction of the original one, because we wanted to recapture a know-how that we lost.
Okay.
So I think this one deserves a moment.
You have absolutely, in that minute there, you've nailed the issue on the head, which is to say that vintage watches can be scary. They can be scary.
This is why I don't do vintage people.
They can be scary for people, right? Because you sometimes, more often than not, you don't know actually what you've got on your hand.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge. And I think in many ways, that's why 2017, Vacheron came in and started offering this. And let's be clear, and we'll call a spade, it wasn't a big sort of commercial thing, right? You know, the margins were not huge because actually it cost an awful lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, Christian. It cost an awful lot to take this in from the secondary market, by a good example, and then service it and then put it onto the market. So
well, to talk some numbers, and again, I would love I'd love to be really honest with you in this series and say that the one on the Cioccolatone
I'm wearing a vintage watch here.
on
The
Justin's wrist
Cioccolatone.
is going to be available for around 60K. On the secondary market, you can find examples around 30K, but which is where Justin hunts. But as you say, this is not. This is for a different type of customer, and what you see when you hold this watch in your hand is breathtaking because it is a vintage car with new car smell, and it's confusing. And I am bamboozled because the piece I picked up as an original or close to original example of a 1921 is in fact from like 15 minutes ago. It just popped out hot out of the Vacheron Constantin oven. It's treacherous, but I've lived. Marcus is going to leave all this in, even though we talked about editing it. But
I mean, literally, for me, that's like nailed it because, you know, everyone's so particular. Everyone's so particular about how they want their watch to be, whether that's a dial that's been cleaned versus a dial that's been repainted or restored, versus original crown. An unpolished case. Is this an unpolished? I mean, this looks like it's unpolished. It's unpolished because it's only 5 years old. Is this unpolished? Are they the original markers? Are they original hands? You know, all those things. Is it the original buckle? And I guess what you get with this service is you get the confirmation that it's come through Christian's team's hands.
Sure.
Everything is legit VC.
Yeah, everything is authentic.
Legitimate.
So, legitimate. And also, don't forget that, you know, there is one book which is below this tray, which is one of our production registers. And what we do when we are curating on the secondary market such watches like we have on this tray and the Cioccolatone, the first thing that we are doing are checking the authenticity of the timepiece by checking our registers. So all the watches that you see here, they have been very seriously curated on secondary markets, and they are 100% authentic.
Yep.
Meaning original dial, original condition as well. So Andrew, you were just talking about the conservation or the preservation or I would say the fact that they look really pristine. But as a matter of fact, we have to find on the secondary market watches which are in good condition. We are not looking for a new stock, which is something that collectors do not like. But we take great care into selecting watches which are in good condition, so we don't have, you know, like, I don't know, 6 months of restoration, which would be
Why don't collectors like new old stock?
Sorry?
Why don't collectors like new old stock?
Because when they acquire a vintage watch, they want the watch to have, this notion of the time passing on the watch.
Yes.
Like patina, for example. Probably patina is the best example, right?
And it's not entirely clear what is new old stock and what's not, quite frankly. Like, I think a lot of dealers out there, and auction houses, quite frankly, write those things without always, and the reality is there aren't many people that were on the ground in the business at the time to actually cross-reference that. So we just don't have that information. I mean,
Sure.
so that's a really lovely example there. I mean, that's a watch called the Cioccolatone because it's like the Italian chocolate, the Italian
It's just
collectors.
so lovely. It has this sort of fluid, gooey, stepped case side.
No, it's an amazing.
The
watch.
audacity of it.
Curved.
The audacity of it.
Yeah, very much. But that was my
more
point.
front than Justin has this watch.
So why do we target such watches? Because they are, in a way, better than me. Speaking about our heritage, design, audacity, etc. Classic with a twist is another angle as well. So I mean, they're great. But you jumped on the Cioccolatone. But personally speaking, I absolutely love the twin roll chronograph from the 40s, which is super rare and
let's go
absolutely
through them.
amazing.
Let's go through them,
What are you
please.
looking for, Christian? So you buy a watch on the secondary market that's good quality, that you believe to be in line with the records, etc.
They have to
so
be.
it's a good solid base to spring from. And then what are you looking at when this watch comes in here? Are you thinking we need to look at the dial and we need to look at the case? What's the protocol?
Well, that's a key question. So what we do? So we are doing a service on the moment. If something has been broken, we replace the component which has been broken by that new old stock, actually one that we have in the after sale or the restoration workshop. Then if we have to do a bigger restoration, so we remove the dust, for example, etc. But we do not touch the dial. Sometimes we remove the dust from the dial because these watches, they are not waterproof. But we don't clean the dial, or we don't repolish the cases, because we want these watches to still be in their original condition. Yeah.
Wow. And presumably you get sort of a warranty extension, maybe.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So
paperwork?
we are giving a couple of years of warranty.
Okay.
For all the Les watches. Yeah.
I think for me, the big thing, that it was a statement that Vacheron actually, number one, didn't see vintage pieces as the enemy. A lot of brands out there see vintage pieces as the enemy. Now that's subsequently changed with CPO programs rolling out across the world. And also just recognizing how damn important these watches are in telling the story of
Absolutely
the brand.
true. So yes, that is another angle. So we are not looking or curating watches which are just, I don't know, any kind of Vacheron Constantin. No, we are looking for watches which are highly collectible, like the Chronograph 4072. This is one of the most sought after chronograph of Vacheron Constantin. Have a look to this amazing minute repeater from the early 90s. Unfortunately, you cannot put it on your wrist because this one is sold.
Forgive me, because that is
super thin.
That is one of the most, and I'm not saying it because you're here or we're here, that is one of the most delicious looking vintage watches. In fact, one of the most gorgeous understated watches I've ever seen.
It's an amazing.
I mean, it is literally
I love
like
it. Yeah.
whispering.
Yeah.
It's whispering.
Only you
It's
know
perfection.
that this is
It's
the minute
absolute
repeater.
perfection.
And that's what 6 figures starting with a 3 gets you. Justin,
I mean, honestly, the dial, it's just, you've got a combination of baton markers, stick hands, baton markers, a brushed central sort of dial with a sort of matte outer perimeter.
And the dial is
Roman
made
numerals.
in 2 parts.
Two-part
And
dial.
it's in gold. Yeah.
This caliber you were telling me about outside earlier when we were chatting, this is a proprietary VC from a supplier of that era, but it's proprietary. You've got the rights to
Definitely, yeah.
this movement.
So we wanted to come back in the early 90s with grand complications. And we had in our private collection minute repeaters from the 40s with an amazing movement, only 3.2 millimeter thick. And like basically said, we decided to redo this movement with some more modern features. And so the result is this caliber, caliber 1755, which is 3.28 millimeter thick for a minute repeater. That's super thin. Yeah.
And look, you pull this thing out, and no one in the room, I mean, you're wearing this on the wrist, no one in the room is thinking this is anything other than a time-only dress watch that you got from your grandfather.
Yeah.
but they couldn't be further from the truth. This little action, the slider on the side here, gives it all away, and it sends a shiver down the spine of any watch geek out there.
But like to allow the blood to drain back into my body and for me to resume myself as a non-vintage watch person, what I think as I'm listening to this sort of heated conversation here is the flow-on effect of a brand owning its history and taking full accountability for watches that have come before is just, it has such a huge effect on me as a recent Vacheron customer. This is my first ever Vacheron, the 222. And I look at this and think, no matter what my daughters do to this, they can still bring it back to Christian. And maybe in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, God forbid, 60 years, there will 100% be not only a willingness, but an enthusiasm to restore to former glory. And what in the modern world is even faintly designed for, relevance for beauty in future decades and centuries? We live in an age of planned obsolescence. And this to me is strangely moving, and I just think as a recent customer, I feel enormous pride. I feel really happy with the brand that I've bought into right now.
Justin,
even though I'll never be a vintage customer.
He's going to be.
He's one of us.
No, I'm not. I'm absolutely
he's
not.
Coming from
I'm still. I just want to get to the next episode so we can move on from the intro. But there are people.
You're 100% true. So when you speak about emotion, sometimes we do speak about emotion with watches. Sometimes a bit too much, maybe. But when you have this vintage watch in front of you, it's really something serious, honestly. And I fully agree with you.
I literally lived in it. I literally lived through this experience about a year and a half ago, where I was invited to an event, and I was sitting next to a guy who I'd actually not met before. He happens to be a hugely influential journalist. He's in the media world.
Was this the same event? Was this the Vacheron Christmas party?
No, it wasn't actually. It was a sporting event. It was a sporting event, and our friend, our mutual friend, rocked up next to me, and he was wearing this vintage Vacheron.
Yeah.
And he said, "You know what? I don't have many watches, but this is a watch I did get from my grandfather. Oh no, it's from his father, I think, actually. He did get it from his father.
In Greece.
In Greece. It was his only watch. And he said, look at this. And I couldn't believe the vibrancy of the dial, the case, and it was living. And it was so perfect for him. You know those moments when you see someone wearing a watch that just sits for them, it works for them, it's them. And anyway, he's like, you won't believe what it looked like before I had it serviced from Vacheron.
Yeah.
And we were putting two and two together.
Not serviced, restored.
Restored. Sorry. Well, he was getting it serviced. He was getting the movement serviced.
Yeah.
And he was getting the watch. And these are the ambiguities that we're dealing with in this conversation, I guess.
True.
He was having the movement restored, so it was being brought up to functional, acceptable levels that could then be accredited. So Vacheron were happy to give you an accreditation. So I don't know how long it took. I think it might have taken about 6 months to a year, maybe, for the restoration to take place. And by restoration, we mean that the dial was just cleaned.
The work was done on the movements. Yeah.
But the watch dial looked entirely fresh, entirely new. Even though you didn't repaint it, you didn't do any of that. No. You just brought removed the dust, the dirt. The case just vibrant. The timekeeping was absolutely where he wanted it to be for a watch to wear on a daily basis.
But it just, ultimately it speaks to the essential quality of the original watches. But it is, I know this is probably an uninteresting idea to many of you that aren't necessarily vintage people, but you really have to put together these pieces of looking at it from the angle of a customer restoring their watch, looking at it from the angle of someone who perhaps isn't feeling aligned with modern watches and wanting to seek some of the charm of yesteryear. It really hits a lot of spots.
This could be divisive. This could be a divisive one in the comments, and I'll get absolutely roasted for this, but I would say that actually maybe it's that collector, that enthusiast who's on that journey, but they've been on that journey for some time, and they've had modern watches, they've explored a bit, and then actually this is end game territory here, because this is someone who doesn't want to scream about it, who doesn't even feel the need to do that. This is the definition of elegance. Like, absolutely. I mean, we talked about it with the
none of
pocket
the
watch.
downside of vintage, as in I've spoken on many podcasts about Effing Time, Matter of Time, all of them, about how I've just had negative experiences with vintage. That's because I'm a prospector. I'm in Justin's price category, so I'm down there hunting hunting in the weeds for stuff that might be a good find. But what I don't realize is I'm competing with Christian, who's also buying off the secondary market with a lot more knowledge.
Oh, let's have some calls before some auctions if you want. Yeah. No, but it's true. But there are a lot of analogies between vintage watches and think about the car collectors. Okay, it's the same situation. Okay, why do car collectors love the smell of petrol, right? And what this cars from the 50s and the 60s, because they really have this, I don't know what, je ne sais quoi in French, which is analog, on the contrary of digital typically. So we love these mechanical objects that has this ability to transcend time. I think this is something which is phenomenal. You know, I wear most of the time modern watches, but I had the chance. Some years ago, I was wearing a triple calendar from 1945. I mean, I promise you guys, every morning I was winding up that timepiece in front of my mirror, and I was thinking about the year 1945. That was the year of the victory. I mean, it's something that vintage watches gives you in addition to...
It transports you back to that moment.
Very much.
And you're such a Renaissance man, as well as being a polymath. Actually, in my my research about Christian, because again, we've been friends for so many years, and yet there's so many things I don't know about you. But I will bring in an anecdote here of you sitting in the Vallée de Joux as a young boy, listening to your
grandfather,
and his brother. Talk about astronomy and philosophy and mathematics, as they were both watchmakers in the Vallée de Joux. And at that point, you thought, well, that's not the life for me. But it is. You're clearly someone with who's nostalgic and sentimental. And it's always freaked me out. I'm going to be honest with you. And again, maybe this doesn't make the cut for the video, but when I see you in modern watches, it doesn't work for me.
Well, for me, I feel like it works super well. No, but okay, it's true. I was man. For sure. I was surrounded by watches during all my childhood, but I think that honestly, I do love vintage watches. But if you ask me the question, okay, so modern or vintage? Honestly, I would say both. Okay, I found the same happiness wearing modern watches than vintage. I just when I point, and maybe Justin, you will tell what you think about. I think it's a different feeling, right? So so I love them because yes, they have this always this notion of the time has been passing on these watches. What is fascinating me is that they are still functioning super well.
Yes.
Like 60, 70, 80 years.
It's inspirational.
And it's great. But I'm not the kind of guy who is comparing modern watches with vintage watches. I have two different appreciations of
you
watchmaking.
You don't have to choose. And please don't make any of us choose.
I have to correct you. I'm not at all the kind of nostalgic guy myself. I don't think I ever been nostalgic. You can call me romantic or anything you want, but nostalgic, I've never been nostalgic.
Can I ask you to go back there to that? You're back there in the Vallée de Joux listening to this conversation. What do you think you would think as a young man if I told you, if I traveled through time and said, one day you will spend 36 years in a watch company?
I would be extremely surprised because actually, I've seen members of my family suffering very much during the 70s due to the port crisis. So yeah, that would surprise me a lot. Yeah, very much. But hopefully, things went in a different way.
What did that little boy want to be? Do you think? What life would you have chosen for yourself?
It's a tough question for me. I wanted to be an explorer with my best friend. And at the age of 8, we started to save some money. That was hard because we could save like 20 cents. So we decided to take money from the Monopoly game. That was quicker, we thought. And we wanted to actually buy a Land Rover and discover new area unexplored in Africa. Things went not in that direction, but this is what I wanted to do.
Things make a lot more sense now. And Les Collectionneurs is something that it touches a lot of the boutiques. Is it for people that are watching this thinking, how do I go and explore these collections?
So with Les Collectionneurs, to come back to this program. So what we are doing, we are building sets, I would say, of different watches. We want to have all our sets covering different decades, covering different type of watchmaking, different designs as well. So actually we also offer pocket watches. And once we have a set which is complete, like 12, 15 watches, we organize exhibitions in some of our boutiques. Most of the time they are flagship boutiques like New York, like Tokyo, like Dubai, etc. And the watch, they will stay in the boutique during 4 to 6 weeks. And well, actually, after 6 weeks, we bring back the watches that will not be sold, and then we recreate another set. So this is how we work. So yeah, and it's a great way to work, I think. Yeah.
What about, Christian, the general public wanting to engage with Vacheron now to have their watch serviced? How long? I mean, just give us some ideas of. Would you take any watch from any era, as an example, to service a watch if it needed to be serviced today from a client?
If we would take any kind of watch coming from?
Yeah, from a client directly, so not through this
you mean if a client wants to have a vintage watch, but potentially, of course, anyone can buy a watch at on the secondary market, auction, or internet, or
just inherit it.
Or inherited. And anyone can bring his watch or her watch to a boutique, so we can check the numbers, see the authenticity, and of course the restoration workshop, we will be able to service it, to repair it if necessary, restore it, and yes, of course the lead time depends on the era and the complexity of work.
And things like if you had a failed set of hands, for example, are you able to help support the client in finding another set of like for like from that era? Is that feasible? Does that happen often?
It doesn't happen often, but anyway, the example of the hands is an interesting one, because sometimes you find a Vacheron Constantin vintage that has been poorly serviced by I don't know who, and sometimes you find hands which are not original. So in that kind of situation, we really, I would say, our advice would be to replace with the original hands that we absolutely have. We have I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of. We have potentially millions of spare parts. So yes, we are able to do it.
I feel like Vacheron's well positioned and well suited to listen to the client requests, because I know, speaking to friends out there who've had watches serviced through lots of different brands, there's always a difficult position where you're, as the collector, as the owner, you're saying, please don't touch this. But yet the brand, the manufacturer, understandably wants to make sure that the watch is at the level it needs to be able to send it back and meet those criteria.
So yeah, true, Justin. So I think every client is different from that point of view. So for us, we have to respect our client wishes. So obviously, our recommendation, when we have a client who is a collector, so we absolutely make sure that we will respect his desires. And most of the time is do not repolish, do not clean, do not remove the dust, typically, and just do a service. Yes.
Where are we, just out of interest on that? Like, if you had a vintage watch coming in, because everyone's got a different view on this, and I think car collectors feel very differently to watch collectors. But if you had a vintage watch that you inherited from your dad, how far would you want to go on that? What would your request to Christian and his team be?
Oh, it'd be a long conversation, because there's some air inside that watch that was my dad's air, that shared the same. It's a little hermetic seal of something that is. There are particles and there's oxygen inside that from that time. I guess you could get really quite attached to the idea that you want the parts of this to be restored to working order, but you don't want any of the connection to the past in maybe an interstellar type way. That would be my mind, because I would not want to receive something, if it was my dad's watch, I would not want to receive something that came back in a
different condition.
In a different condition that perhaps I'd never seen it on his wrist. Like if he'd owned it for some years before. I mean, my dad owned a lot of Citizen watches and Seiko watches and so on, and they were always beaten to hell because he's a steam train driver. So he knocked his watches around. So if they came back looking like this, it would be very divorced from my memory of the watch on my dad's wrist. It's a good question.
Just movement, so functional.
Just functional.
But aesthetically, no adjustment.
I don't think so.
No, but I fully agree with you. So at this point also, there's something which is important. So when you speak about restoration, so I think we have a very, very strong commitment. We service, restore, or repair any Vacheron Constantin from 1755 until today. That means
that's
if
a pretty
you
expansive
guys,
envelope.
honestly,
1755 until
sure.
today. That's
So we receive at the restoration workshop sometimes watches from clients who are from the beginning of the 19th century. And so potentially they do not work anymore. So this we can understand, especially if they've been inherited. And what we do, we are doing the service. If there is oxidation, we remove it. If something is broken, we fix it with another component from this era. If we don't have that component, we redo it on the vintage machines, no CNC. So this is something which is, I think, quite unique. Yeah.
I was assuming CNC.
And it's great to do this podcast about restoration because I absolutely love a restoration at Vacheron Constantin. So every time I discuss with my colleagues from restoration, I always say, guys, you are the hidden gem of Vacheron Constantin. That's true.
That's
cool.
a proper flex. I don't think we appreciate just what a flex that is. So like modern watchmaking is built on CNC machines. Like when you go and see a workshop, generally it's like full of heavy duty industrialized machines. Yeah. But no CNC machines, that's basically crafting it from scratch.
No,
Stamping it.
Stamping
Yeah.
it. Like, it's incredible.
I think that would be interesting to speak about when we speak about restoration. That would be great to talk about the reconstruction of the American 21, because that is another interesting story about restoration.
This is Andrew's faux pas.
That's the watch.
Early faux pas.
Must we go back there?
It's going to have nightmares.
We have to. I think we have to. Because yes, this is
maybe mention in the comments whether you were also fooled, because are there any distinguishing features that could mark this as a revival piece?
No, I think it's a super great story. So, why did we redo this American 1921 exactly like in 1921? So it was not for, I would say, marketing reasons or communication reasons. It's something which is really interesting. It's really a restoration project. So. We decided to redo an American 1921 exactly like in 1921, meaning this watch has been done by hand, because we lost some know-how, specifically about some movement finishing, which was called la côte unique stripe. And also we lost a know-how from the 20s about which is linked with the setting of the jewels. Just a couple of things to mention. So we said, okay, we really have to regain that know-how which is lost, because when we receive watches from the 20s, if we are not able to properly restore them, okay, so we fail in our mission, right? So we decided to do that watch from scratch. So everything was made from scratch. So the watchmaker who was in charge of the reconstruction, I spoke with him, I know him super well. He spent almost 500 hours reading old books, trying to understand how to do this special type of decoration and how to set the jewels. So
the decoration is not visible.
The decoration is not visible because in 1921, Andrew, the case back, they were not open, basically said.
So somebody labored over getting the decoration perfect, and nobody will see it.
No, absolutely right. This is how we did it, and it took us a bit more than 1 year. And there is a pretty nice story about the hands for you, Justin. So we when the movement was done and when the animal dial was done, we have tried to find hands, and we found original hands of the American 1921, which were not yet blued. Oh, wow. They were in steel, and we have blued them with a flame. Wow. So these hands were made in 1921.
Wow. There you go. I'm going to take some points.
Okay. So that was the purpose of this reconstruction, which is, I think, super interesting.
And entirely non-commercial. So one of one, that was it. It was just an opportunity to showcase the efforts of what gets done.
How important it is to maintain your know-how, maintain your tradition, make sure that this is preserved and this is transmitted to the other generation as well. So that was the purpose of this project.
Yeah, incredible.
I do feel better for the ruse, for the trick. And we can land this plane of this episode on a modern note, because while we touched on this in another episode, it is a good time to reprise the new 1921,
Okay.
which again brings the blue theme back.
Yeah, very much. It's exactly this.
Perfect segue.
So this year, as we know, so we present this new version, or the new dial actually, a new face for the American 1921. So what we have changed is the dial color is slightly lighter, I would say. And also we have a grain finish on the dial surface, which is a bit more resonating with the vintage ones.
It's like a tarmac.
And
so textured.
we decided to change the color of the Arabic figures from dark anthracite, almost black, to a very chic blue, which is matching, dear Andrew, dear Justin, with the beautiful hands in steel and then blued.
Yes.
And the bracelet obviously is also different. It's a bracelet. It's a leather bracelet, which is also in the blue color.
4400,
So, you know.
4400 caliber in the back that we know and love.
Justin, is there a world where you could ever sell your wedding watch? Only in divorce. This is a dangerous subject. He's
God, he's whacked me.
immediately
He's
nervous.
blindsided me big time.
I feel like I'm putting everybody under the pressure today
I'm
by
not
accident.
I'm not wearing it now.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I've actually decided that, because it was actually also the watch I was wearing when my daughter was born.
Yeah.
So it's a double whammy. It's a double whammy. So I've hedged the idea that I love the dear lady very much, but that's that's always going to be a great moment.
We simply couldn't be friends if you sold it. Based on
But
those two
ultimately,
stories.
it's just such a double whammy now that it's like hedged itself either way. So it's always going to hold a special place. And I'd love to see her wearing it one day, because I love that look on a. In fact, the UK managing director, the MD for the UK market, she's no longer actually. She's still at Vacheron, but she's no longer in the UK market. She used to wear the 1921, that larger size, and it looks so elegant on her. And for me, I'd love one day to think that my daughter might like the design and might want to wear it.
Yeah.
And my wife is not positive about watches ever at any time.
Yeah.
But she's never said anything negative about the 1921.
Okay.
Which means
that's
that
as good as it gets for you.
she absolutely loves
That's
it. I love the fact that the 1921s these days are sort of like, they are their own beast in that way. And also they're often time only. They're not generally complicated, although the new blue numerals, the only other time I've ever seen those blue ones, there was a very rare perpetual calendar
Oh yes.
that had blue.
That's why I've got a collector in the house.
Breguet
Well
numerals.
played.
So that's another fun story about the American 21. It's true. So So when we launched the current American 1921 in 2008, I remember the boutique director in Geneva came to see us and said, "Listen, I really would like you guys to do a very special version of the American 1921 using a perpetual calendar." So we were shocked by how can you it's a kind of terrible transgression, right?
Blasphemy.
Almost, yes.
Blasphemy.
But we found the idea super interesting, from the design point of view. So yes, we did it, and we made a few of them. We made it in rose gold and in platinum as well. A few of them, yeah. The result was pretty surprising. Interesting. Yeah, stunning.
So, what an episode. It's been an emotional journey. I am resisting the urge with all of my mind to ask Justin Hast what he wanted to be when he grew up, because he still hasn't grown up, so I can't ask him that. I have one last question for you, Justin, in particular.
Oh no.
I could feel this is going to sound inappropriate. It's not unusual for me, but I could feel your loins tingling before when it was brought up that Vacheron will restore vintage watches that are brought to them. So I'm thinking Justin's got in his mind, well, I could buy a Les Collectionneurs for 2 times the market, or I could buy a vintage piece, WhatsApp a picture to Christian, and then send it in for restoration. What excites you more? And am I right that it's absolutely the second option? That you will be continuing to pester Christian, and then you're eventually going to send something in for restoration?
I think everyone watching will agree. It's just the journey, the hunt,
thrill.
the
You
hunt,
get the
the
hunt.
thrill,
I was going to say
the excitement.
that's the hunt.
It's just
The
endless.
hunt is amazing.
No matter how
So
many
you
times
get the hunt and then the taxidermy.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I've never stuffed an animal of any kind, privately or publicly.
Whereas I am a straight up Les Collectionneurs customer. I hope one day through a miracle that I will be able to reach that pay grade to just say I'm just taking this incredibly beautiful vintage object that feels entirely new off Christian's hands. I do hope to be a customer of yours.
Yeah, that would be great.
Don't forget, Andrew, I would say that minute repeater, for example, that's not one that legitimately you're actually going to find.
No.
So there are some things
That's
that are just
true. That's a
literally
very good
like
point.
hen's teeth, and they're just. Whereas the Cioccolatone, okay, maybe we'll find one, but yeah, I'm on the side of let's do some digging and let's have some fun with it here with the team. But ultimately, there's some really special things there that you just legitimately won't find. So either way,
You have a kind of favorite in the vintage Vacheron, one you would love to have.
I think the coloured Mercator. So I had the yellow. I had the yellow and yellow gold, but actually a coloured enamelled Mercator would probably be.
It's a good choice. Yeah.
But then, I mean, there's lots.
How long do we have? I think we've got to wrap it here, guys.
Skeleton Perpetual Calendar, early, like neo-vintage Skeleton Perpetual.
That was a good era to come back.
The platinum one.
Yeah, something
The
like
platinum one is a killer. You know, when I was hired by Vacheron Constantin.
Let's just keep going.
We finished. Yeah. When I was hired by Vacheron Constantin, they sent me, I would say, the whole catalog of all the watches, and then I bumped into this timepiece. I said, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's the one in platinum, ultra thin perpetual calendar skeleton. A dream of a watch. Yeah.
A yellow 222.
A yellow 222.
A yellow 222 for me would also be that hits different as an experience.
A triple calendar moon phases Cioccolatone.
So there you have it.
ultra
The
thin.
restoration
Okay.
episode is complete for me, but
me,
not for the other
and
two.
the
So if you love this episode, like and subscribe.
The dual
We are doing 4
Very
episodes that are slightly less chaotic than this, though that's really for you to decide. Thanks for watching. Roll credits.